All right, so this is going to be part 2 of the bishop d3 variation. This one is a bit more complicated, which is why I wanted to put it in a separate video. So once again, bishop d3, we take after the bishop moves. So take, and then bishop d7. So let's say, for example, they castle and they give the pawn. So this is a legitimate gambit. A couple things that you want to know here. So generally they're going to take, and now they go knight c3. So knight c3, and this is something that you can do in every opening. If you try to understand why they're making these moves, it becomes way easier to defend. So first rule, do not take on e5. You will get posterized. Another general rule for gambits is 2 pawns is too much. You can take the first pawn. Taking the second pawn can be very, very dangerous. Like here, rook e1, and I mean, you're about to be in all kinds of pain. So after knight c3, all we got to do is go a6. So let's say, for example, we make a random move. They want to go knight b5 because now if we take, they take, and once again the queen is dead. So all we got to do is prevent that. We go a6, preventing knight b5. So now at least what I've seen is queen e2. So now here we want to go bishop c5, but right now if we do this, bishop e3 can be kind of problematic. So what you do first is you go rook to c8. So rook c8, rook d1, putting you in a line of fire, and then here you actually don't even sweat it. You just go bishop c5. Now, for example, if he tries to do something fancy with this bishop, like bishop takes pawn, you can go queen h4. This actually is winning too. But the big idea is you can go queen takes f2 check. And it looks like we're losing a piece here, but don't forget, his bishop on h7 is also hanging. So now you would just be up a pawn in the endgame, and he has a lot of weak pawns. Another variation, bishop takes a6, same idea. Queen takes f2, take, and then take on a6, and you are up a pawn. Now, the other variation you want to know, and this is kind of breaking the rule, but if bishop e3 here, we would actually just take on e5. So I know I said earlier, do not take the second pawn, but here you are ready. You are more developed. And for example, if he takes here, you take the queen, and now you don't have to worry about any attack. And I think here you actually have 2 pawns. So we're happy here. Okay, so if if knight c3, the most common move, just prevent it with a6. And then you try to go rook c8 and then bishop c5, and you are ready to go here. All right, so that's the first of the gambits. The other gambit that you're going to see is knight d2. So all you want to know here is you are up a pawn, which means TKO. Trade, keep it simple, and open up the position. But definitely castle first. So here we're going to take on f3, and we're going to get rid of his best piece, this bishop. So bishop to b5. Now, what they normally do here is they go bishop e3, tempo on the queen, and here we just go queen a6. So the beauty of queen a6 is now he is forced to trade bishops. If he moves back, we would take the rook, and we would also trade queens, so we'd be super happy here. So generally, they're going to take, queen takes, and now knight d4, hitting your queen. So they did get some development out of this, but after queen d7, you are safe, and you are up a pawn. Generally, the strat here is you're going to go knight e7, knight c6, bishop e7, castle, and then worst case, you can give back the pawn. Let's say, for example, something like here, and here. So you can just go rook c8 if you want, but also you could just give this back because at the end of the day, actually this might be a little bit sus, but this protected pass pawn is very strong. So just know, like, okay, if I have to give the pawn back, worst case, I'm still okay here because I have the better endgame because I have the protected pass pawn. He has the 2-on-1, but you have the open B file to hit this pawn and these pawns. Okay, so now, if knight d2, just remember, trade it all off. Take on f3, bishop b5, and then I've actually gotten this position a couple times. And then after this, now you're just chilling. Now the last variation that you want to know with this bishop d3 line is sometimes they don't take on d4, they just castle. And this is actually a pretty legit gambit. So here what you want to do is go first off bishop d7, because if they take here, it transposes. You just go knight takes, and we have the same variation as the other one. But generally, they won't take here. If they were going to, they would have done it before. So here they go rook e1. Now, what's worked for me very well practically in a couple tournament games is just go g6 here. And now there's none of these discovers. Once again, if they take here, we just take it back. So another good thing to know is if they try to pin you and you're like, oh my god, I'm going to lose, don't go bishop c5. All you got to do is just take on f3 because you take with check, which is key. Queen takes, and then, I mean, d4 is there too, but I think you can just go bishop c5. trade off, and now you are up a pawn, and then once you castle, you are good to go. So that's what you want to do in this gambit line. And after g6, generally, once again, they won't take. They go like queen e2, and then you can just bishop g7, target this, and another maneuver that's really good is knight h6, knight g4, trying to get this pawn. Or you can go knight h6, knight f5 to support this pawn. And then this bishop doesn't have the normal firepower that it does, and here black is doing super well.